The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at Nine News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at Nine News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at Nine News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Thursday, November 9th, and today is, that's right, Rico, today is World Adoption Day. And if it wouldn't be World Adoption Day without being World Freedom Day on top of National Louisiana Day. Microtia Awareness Day. I probably murdered that. And National Scrapple Day. And thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. Use that fancy little QR code right there in the top-hand corner of your screen to see where you live on the internet. We are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube. And we are now also streaming on Rumble, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those audiences. And we are going to kick it off today with the dope dad himself. That's right. It's Rico Lamitte. He is the flip-flopping champion in California. He is also on the road to be a national flip-flopping champion as well in the greatest flip-flopping debate. And it went last night on the Republican stage. That's right. It is none other than the dope dad himself, Rico Lamitte.
I told you, man, I'm about the slides, not the flip-flop, Jason.
Yeah.
Get it right.
You guys can call them whatever you want. They're always going to be flip-flops.
Get it right.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what, Jason? The more we dig, the more we find.
Oh, boy.
You know why? I like to dig. I like to find stuff. But we're going to talk about history today. Because the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation reported yesterday that traces of cannabis were found by anthropologists in unearthed human remains, suggesting that 17th-century Italians were recreational pot users. This gives us perfect explanation as to why they'd later invent pizza, the greatest munchie food of all time. Forensics scientists at University of Milan's Laboratory of Forensic Anthropology and Odontology examined 9 femoral bone samples originally buried near the Ospedale Maggiore in the 17th century. 2 of the 9 bone samples showed prominent evidence of recreational cannabis use, suggesting people who lived in 1600s Milan were stoners too. The literal evidence of cannabis consumption in Greco-Roman culture is nothing new. Article notes that ancient Greek historian Herodotus wrote about flowers with psychotropic effects back in 440 BC. And medical records from the Middle Ages in Europe show cannabis was widely administered to treat anything from gout, urinary infections, and birthing pains to weight loss.
Anthony's about to come in, just so you know.
As well as being used as an anesthetic.
Yeah,
but it was Catholics.
I think he has us muted.
Like so many other moments in later history, in hater history, I should say, that would later put the kibosh on the region's good times. In 1484, Pope Innocent VIII, definitely not innocent, passed a bull or a decree labeling cannabis as unholy sacrament, banning its use among the faithful. During that era of Inquisition, medicinal and hallucinogenic herbs were associated with magic and witchcraft. For the centuries that followed, there'd be no hard evidence as to use as of now, until now, with the discovery by a team of forensic scientists in Milan. The discovery was made at the Cha Grande Crypt under a church that annexed Ospedale Maggiore, the most important free hospital in the 17th century Milan, known for treating the city's poor. University of Milan biologist Gaia Giordano said that we know that cannabis has been used in the past, but this is the first study ever to find traces of it in human bones. It is an important finding because there are so very few laboratories that can examine bones to find traces of drugs. The goal of the study was to find traces of plants used for medicinal or recreational purposes in the general population and follows an earlier study done by Giordano that found traces of opium in cranial bones and well preserved brain tissue. Two of the bones found, one belonging to a woman around age 50 and the other to a teenage boy, showed the presence of two kinds of cannabinoids, delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol and cannabidiol, or cannabidiol, commonly referred to today as DTC and CBD. Giordano says the findings not only suggest cannabis was consumed by all ages and genders, but that it was used recreationally, most likely prepared in cakes and infusions. The team scanned the medical records of Ospedale Maggiore and found no mention of cannabis in its detailed records of healing plants, remedies, or potions administered to the patients in all hospitals in Milan in the 1600s. The absence of cannabis in the list of pharmacopoeia strongly suggests that the cannabis found in the two individuals was likely used for the same reason it is today, to relax, zone out, and self medicate. Current available anthropologic evidence says that the origins of human and modern human cannabis consumption traces back to Central Asia or Western China, where it was used for medicine for millennia, with the first documented case back in 2800 BC. Over the past few years, major technological advancements in dating techniques in LIDAR have revealed more details of cannabis history, including when it was used, what it was used for, who was using it, where, and sometimes why. While that's not that big of a surprise to many of us, that more and more global cultures are being posthumously forced out of the green closet, it's pretty cool to see that stories like this are unfolding in real time. I want to hear what the rest of you guys think about this, man. The late Italianos back in the day, in the days of BC, all the way up to the Prohibition years from the Catholics, smoking weed. I'm Rico Lamitte, dopest dad on the street. What do you guys think of this one?
Rico, do we know if this was Bacchiao gelato that they were smoking?
It must have been, you know. They didn't really use cow milk back then, so it was definitely lactose free gelato that they were burning on it.
Lactose-free
The original,
gelato. Man,
the original
oh,
land
man.
races, if you will.
Land race, huh?
Mhm.
Fancy. Fancy, fancy,
Or
fancy.
it could have been lactose containing gelato, and it could have been the original LCG.
Wouldn't that be a derivative of cereal milk?
Oh, I see what you did there, Rico.
You like that? You like that?
I see
Yeah,
what
a
you
little
did
milk
do
in that
there.
ass.
Yes.
Uh,
I mean,
I think it's pretty cool, man. They're digging up more and more bones. There's a extension of the story that me and Saint Germain always bring up in the Immortality Key. Now they have lidar, and they're seeing all these bones. They're seeing all these ruins underneath the earth, and they're digging up bodies. They're digging up bones, and they're finding traces of psilocybin, cannabis, ergot, DMT, like in all of these bones. They were getting lit back then, and the prohibition came from the Catholics, man. Blame it on the Pope.
blame it on the Pope. Blame it on the Vatican.
Yep.
But they,
I don't think people understand the history of the use of this plant yet. I mean, we go back to 3000 BC in China. They were making mention of it for its medicinal uses. But before that, because no one's had the ability or they haven't really tested body tissues that are still available for the presence, and they're going to start piecing this together because it's clear that we don't know when the first Homo sapien grabbed one of these flowers and started chewing on the seeds and went, "Holy shit, this stuff's pretty good." Okay? Who knows when that happened or when the first psychedelics were used? But we'll go closer to the truth. But there was a study in the 80s done of mummies, and I think half a dozen different labs found the presence of tobacco and coca in a mummy from 1000 BC. LIDAR is going to help us understand the Amazon basin and connections between the Mediterranean and the Amazon, and we'll get a better idea of, the use of substances. But the church branded all this stuff as, the devil's work and witches and shit like that. And we're still fighting that. I mean, I don't know if you've heard church ladies jump up and scream at you before, but we're still fighting that stigma, decades, centuries later.
It amazes me how many religious people only live in the New Testament and totally disregard the entire Old Testament. Dale.
It's funny to me how they even disregard the New Testament when it says, if he without sin cast the first stone.
Yep.
I'm sorry, just a lot of viewers may be upset with me for saying this, but I just believe we live in an era where there's just so many fake things to be a part of. And it's hard for me to say it because God knows your heart, best. But when you claim to be a Christian and you do things, are totally against Christianity, I can only surmise that you're not a Christian. You're just somebody who likes to point a finger and just be judgmental. People take drugs all the time. People OD on opioids. I don't see Christians or people in churches saying, you're taking oxycodone and now you're hooked on it and everything else, and you don't see them saying stuff like that.
Yeah, there's no public outrage like there is with you consuming cannabis.
No. And tell them about their wine. And the moment you tell them about their wine, and you go to a passage of the Bible where it says don't drink wine, but then they say, well, Jesus said the wine is my blood and the bread is my body. You understand? Like, they'll find an excuse. Like, they always find an excuse, dog. You're never going to make anyone happy.
Didn't we just cover a story relating to what was in the wine, that it was actually like some hallucinogenic mushroom tea with DMT and a few other hallucinogens?
Yep, that's what I was going to take it to, man, Tony. Taking it a step further, the wine that they were drinking back then at when they talk about people being drunk and all that, was 2% alcohol. You can't get drunk off of 2% alcohol wine and just start doing wild stuff. They were getting it in. They were getting it in. They had
and they had an elixir, and that elixir had that cocaine in it. That elixir had that cocaine, and that was a widely used plant.
Yeah.
Up until even our inception here in Americas, where we created a government, they were giving kids cocaine and soda pop.
Back then, if you just think of the things that they were saying, the crazy things that people say are, parables, they say they're metaphors in the Bible. I don't believe that. I believe that they were just tripping balls and they wrote down what they saw. Jesus walking on water, giving sight to.
It was like, oh my. Did you see that?
Hold on. So you're saying that the Red Sea wasn't really parted?
I'm saying somebody was high and they told you.
Man, so it's like basically all these stories is just like from one big game of telephone, is what you guys are telling me.
Right. Yeah. Did Jesus really come back from the dead, or was he just passed out for a couple of days and had to recover?
I
don't know. I wasn't there.
Oh, they had the ultimate party. They had the ultimate party, and it took him 3 days to recover.
He had to come down. I have no idea.
Now he's gonna have me thinking about this all day long.
Oh man, we just threw Tony down the rabbit hole.
Favorite Bible story, and just put it in your mind that they were probably tripping balls when they wrote this.
I didn't even smoke yet, but that was a super high moment. It just he just went crazy on Jesus. He said, man. Maybe he was ripped and disappeared for 3 days and came back and said, hey, feel good now. Back.
Yes.
I don't know where I was. I don't know what happened to you.
And
talking to God.
And on that, we're gonna go to a commercial.
Kill me, godson? Nah, I was partying. I had dipped for 3 days. I'm back. What's up?
Yeah. And we're gonna go to a commercial, and we're gonna be right back.
How's it going, guys? Saman Razani coming to you from Green Street here with Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast available on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify? Tune in now and check it out.
That they were given to me?
We're back.
Up next, when not on the debate stage, when he's not on the debate stage, supporting the worst of the worst deplorables, you can find him here at High at 9 News, holding things down. It looks like you're on the debate stage right now, man, with my man Chris from Zydex. But
Yes.
you
It
know
is
who it is.
5-inch heels, Rico.
Yeah, 3.5 inch heels, right? Right, Jason?
I don't know. You know what's funny is I just saw a whole funny meme talking about Ron DeSantis's boots. And
Yeah, he was tall last night, man, with real short arms. It looked weird.
Oh, bro, I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna send you this whole thing. They did a whole skit on his whole shoes.
I love it,
so
man.
good.
But y'all know who it is. Smoking on the best weed in the world today, Jason Beck.
Oh yeah, Rico.
What you
Thank
got
you
for
so
us,
much.
man?
Hope everyone is having an amazing Thursday. We're almost to Friday, guys, but not quite yet. But I'll tell you what, I have some amazing news for you guys. It's a little bit of a long story, so I'm gonna try to cut it short as much as I possibly can. But this is amazing news for the whole entire cannabis industry and for the eradication of boof weed. Because 1/3 of Canada's cannabis greenhouses capacity is taken offline. Thank God. One after another, many of Canada's largest cannabis greenhouses and indoor grow operations have been sold or mothballed as the industry continues to search for a supply-demand equilibrium after years of overproduction. The facilities each closing anywhere from 100 million Canadian, that's actually 73 million US dollars, and more than 500 million are being closed for various reasons. Some of these operations crashed into the cannabis industry's hard macroeconomic realities, and Canadian cultivators bankrolled and licensed too much cultivation capacity before and after adult use legalization back in 2018, which led to large-scale overproduction and plunging prices for low to mids quality products. Companies also shuttered greenhouses because they failed to be as cost-effective as anticipated by both executives and investors. And some were closed after companies saddled with millions of dollars of debt, sometimes owed mostly to the Canadian government, became insolvent. When cannabis producer Pheno Group, formerly known as CannaTrust, was granted creditor protection and closed its facility in Niagara, Ontario, about 450,000 square feet of cultivation space was removed. All told, approximately 1/3 of cannabis licensed indoor and greenhouse cultivation has been taken offline from the industry in recent years. Health Canada data shows that as much as in March of 2023, there was 16.3 million square feet of licensed cultivation area for greenhouse and indoor facilities. That's down from a peak of 23.9 million square feet in the mid-2020s, and the tail end of the cannabis stock craze that resulted in Canadian investors bankrolling substantially more indoor and greenhouse capacity was then needed. Outdoor production has never been slower to come down, and there remains 63.2 million square feet of outdoor area licensed for cannabis production, according to the regulator. That's about 18% lower than the peak set in late 2021 of 76.7 million square feet. Experts say that the trend could continue until prices stabilize. And the latest example is Alberta-based licensed producer SNDL, which announced in October that it was closing its California $100 million indoor facility in odds to enhance competitiveness. The closure of that facility removed 448,000 square feet of licensed cultivation area, equivalent to the size of almost 8 football fields. Earlier this year, Smith Falls, Ontario headquartered Canopy Growth Corp closed and sold its flagship cultivation facility, $53 million US dollars, to the original owner, chocolate maker Hershey's of Canada. Other licensed producers to close large facilities include Tilray Brands, which said in 2021 it was closing a flagship facility in Nanaimo, British Columbia, shortly after acquiring it, and Kronos Group, which in 2022 announced its planned exit from its production facility in Stayner, Ontario, only to revise that plan to maintain certain components of its operations there, such as distribution, warehousing, and some research and development, as well as manufacturing a portion of the company's products. Most of the largest facilities being closed were bankrolled and constructed early in the cannabis industry's boom and bust cycle, generally from 2017 through 2020. Chris Damas, a veteran cannabis industry analyst in Ontario, said the new entrants arrived with a second mover advantage and lower cost lower cost base, allowing them to aggressively take market share from those bottom time facilities. He said Canara Biotech in Quebec, for example, was partially responsible for the demise of cannabis producer Hexos Corp. Biggest cannabis facility, which is set to be converted for cucumber growing. Shout out to the cucumbers. And other factors were price compression in most flower categories, a lack of demand for flower with less than 25% THC, and, in quotes, so the market for so-called factory weed sold based on big volume just dried up, Damas said. He also said some of the biggest costs, such as energy and labor, have increased since the first large-scale grows were commissioned, reducing their economic viability. And in British Columbia, he said, Pure Sun Farms probably put some value flower sellers into an early grave, while New Brunswick Organogram Holdings benefited from its cash position and partnership with British American Tobacco. In a quote, these different competitors assisted in putting the big legacy greenhouses into chronic negative operating cash flow positions, he said. And as cannabis producers are shuttering so-called factory-style cultivation operations, some entrepreneurs have turned to smaller micro-cultivation facilities, which generally come with substantially lower startup costs and produce higher quality cannabis. Last year, Canada's federal government handed out 58 standard cultivation licenses, which have no square foot limit. And in the same year, Canada awarded 130 new micro licenses, which allow cultivation only within a surface area of up to 200 square meters. That's basically 2,150 square feet. And one advantage for micro class companies is the quality of their products is generally higher than mass-produced cannabis, which seems to increasingly appeal to consumers. Well, I can tell you right now that this is a great news for the overall cannabis marketplace, because it sounds like prices are going to go up because there is a lack of boof weed in the industry. And this is Jason Beck for the High at 9 News Hour. What do y'all think about this?
I think this.
Thank God for the elimination of boof.
Right?
Yeah, this is I think Aurora Cannabis was the first mover on this when they were posting huge losses last year, and they shocked everybody, saying that they were going to be closing their biggest operations and switching a lot of their stuff over to vegetables to try to make more money.
Cucumbers.
What's that?
Cucumbers.
Yeah.
Shout out to the cucumbers.
Yeah, man. Shout out to cucumbers.
Yeah.
Sea cucumbers.
Girls love cucumbers.
That they do. Facts.
And pickles. And pickles.
Yeah.
No, man. I think this is a cautionary tale to all these mega farms out there, man. They're producing all this mass-produced stuff that is not quality, and you don't have enough people to smoke that, and people don't want to buy that, and you don't have the clientele. You think that, you know, if you build it, they will come. Like, that's not how it works. And
the economies of scale argument isn't. I mean, that's always been the ongoing thing since the beginning. Yep. But what it really is the cost per pound it's only going to get, you're only shaving pennies off to have this huge responsibility of employees, overhead. All that square foot takes so much to upkeep. So they're going to squeeze out a few dollars extra of the pound. It's better to have, like, maximum indoor is like 15,000, 20,000 square feet. After that, the economies of scale doesn't really matter, in my opinion.
In the meat industry, they take every bit of the animal and they'll grind it up, and they'll even put paste to it to make it a patty, right? And if I just feel like if this company was owned by some Project Black folks, they would just be making weed butter with all of that boof. They would have boof butter, and they would really switch the name up, and they would be like boof.
Yes, they could
brand
like,
it. Get some boof butter. Like, get some boof tea. But they would take it, and they would turn a blank into a frank. So even though they know that the real true plant is going to succeed, people are going to want that real loud. They could take that boof dough and make butter. They could make cookies. They could make, you know what I mean? Like, there are things you can actually do, or even selling, like, because you have a bunch of that stuff. But if you grind all of that shit up to shaking, you're just telling people, like, yo, just extract all the oils out of it. You could be making oils, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, most of their stuff should just get turned into distillate, but the global distillate market is only so big.
Yep. Yeah.
True.
In a lot of places weren't ready for that. You know what I'm saying? There's billions
Sometimes you
building
got to
these.
start out.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Definitely
you got to be
not. But I'll
first.
tell you what, those distillate keef rolled joints, consumers keep buying those things like crazy.
What are your thoughts about that, Jason?
I can never roll. I can never buy a blunt that's already been licked by somebody else.
Oh, well, that's a good thing because they don't
Oh,
sell
man.
blunts; they sell joints.
It's the same thing to me. Same thing.
I've had lots of uncomfortable discussions with people who got way over the edge of their surfboard in debt to try and open up some big facility, and the market price drops out. And to try to explain to them, if you can't produce for a dollar a gram or less, at some point you're going to eat shit in this industry. And I think it still holds true. And I've got clients with money going around picking up these facilities for pennies on the dollar. And now their bottom line is easier to produce weed than it was before when you needed a sugar daddy to keep you running.
You need the
Our
demand
industry in the
before
United States has not reached an equilibrium yet. So we're going to see this go up and down for a while.
It sounds
the
like
demand
all
before you
these
supply.
Canadians really love American movies, and I happen to watch Field of Dreams far too many times.
Yep. You got to build up before you
Yep.
come, not build it.
That's right. And on that, we're going to keep this train moving. We're going to move right in to Mr. Dale Schafer. He's an attorney at law who did some time for a cannabis crime and became a felon, but didn't do no telling. That's right. It is the founder of Armada Law Practice, Mr. Dale Schafer.
Good morning, everybody. My story this morning is the reason why we need safe banking in this country. The headline comes out of Law 360. Oregon cannabis business sues neobank over bounced checks. Now, I want to emphasize this is in the complaint stage. This is just the allegations by the plaintiffs against the defendants. They haven't answered yet, so I only got one side of the story. But approximately a year ago, let me get the name of this company here. It's Celebs Distribution up in Oregon, approached what was called a neobank. Now I looked this up, and the neobank is basically an app that will usually hooks up with a real bank to provide you with online services. They don't have brick and mortar stores to go to. So in the industry, we've had trouble finding anybody who will touch cannabis money because the requirements for SINFIN reports and it's almost impossible to do it. But when someone offers you an opportunity to have relatively cheap banking online, hey, that seems like a wonderful thing in the industry who starve for real banking. Well, it turns out that this company, Killa Bees, gave this bank $126,000 to hold for them, and they were promised that you could do withdrawals and you could then pay vendors. Okay, so apparently, about November, about a year ago, they notified this bank that, hey, we're going to need to make a withdrawal here soon. And so when they went to make the withdrawal, they were sent a check for $30,000. It bounced. So they took the check back to this neobank, and they issued another check, and the second check bounced. And at about the same time, a vendor was to be paid. They sent a request to send a check to a vendor for $22,000. That bounced. Okay, so these folks got a little pissed off. They finally got a hold of their people inside the bank, and they were told, oh, we no longer work there. You got to go talk to somebody else. And at some point in this, you just know their butt puckered up because it's like, shit, I've been taken here. Where's my money? I want my money. You won't give it to me. I want my money back. Crickets. January of this year, Oregon banking regulators, they took away their permit to be doing banking in Oregon. And I don't know what they require in Oregon for these neobanks. And one of the problems with these not institutions, you don't have insurance for your deposits. You can't go there and say, hey, I got fleeced for whatever, and have the federal government write you a check. And you can't really depend that they're going to have enough money in reserves, because banking regulations require that you keep a certain percentage of your assets in cash so you can pay people when they want money. I don't know the status of this, but Killer Bees decided that we're done playing games with you. So they filed a complaint in federal court, Oregon federal court, for breach of contract, covenant of good faith and fair dealing, unjust enrichment, negligence, fraudulent misrepresentations, dishonored checks. Oregon has a treble damages statute. If you write a hot check, you can be sued for treble damages. They also threw in a federal RICO charge, claiming this was a criminal enterprise, telling people what they would do with their money, knowing all along they were not going to do it. So they sued them under a RICO allegation. So we're going to wait and see what the answer is to this, if this bank has any answer to it. But the bottom line here is that you can't go to the federal government with a bank like this and say, hey, I got fleeced for $126,000. I want my money back, and have the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation send you a check. You're going to have to go fight in court. And it sounds to me like these people are judgment proof. If you can't get them to respond, if they've had their permits to operate as a bank in Oregon revoked, the odds of getting anything out of these people are slim to none, because they're an asset protection company, and you're just not, they're a corporation. You're not going to get assets out of them other than the value of their stock, and it sounds like that ain't worth a shit. So anyway, this is why we need banking, because these people are not going to get their money back. And I don't know how many others have been screwed like this by this bank. And cautionary tale, be very careful of banking in the cannabis industry, especially these things called neobanks, whatever that's supposed to be. All right, throwing it back at you guys. What do you think?
Is this bank in the Matrix?
Oregon, right? This is like Silicon Valley Bank all over in Oregon, right?
This is yeah, man. We're seeing more and more of these bank stories. So they got all this bank fraud because we don't have banking. It's more bank fraud going on with these new age banks. I'm guessing. Did you say they were not FDIC insured?
No, they're a neobank that usually hooks up with a legitimate bank. I don't know if they did in this case. I don't know where their money went.
So you're saying that
They're
this
not
bank was
phoning
like a
up.
fake union?
Well, it's possible. Well, I don't think so, because they had to go to the Oregon regulators and get some sort of a permit to do this. So there are some rules about maintaining liquidity within your assets and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came time to come up with cash to pay people back, they shit the bed. So I don't know what's going on with these folks.
So I have a cannabis bank that I use, and not only is it a huge pain in the ass, they require like tons of compliance to just not only deposit the money, but the hoops I got to jump through. It literally takes about a 3-4 day process to even just get the funds in there, then another day or two to get them transferred out to be able to use them for like my regular bank to do like Zelle and bill pay, things like that. So it's like a week-long process I got to plan to even just get money into the bank, like to go buy packaging or something, and make a bank transfer. So the point is, it's underwritten, like what you said. I guess underwritten would be the word, but I bank with one company, and it's all the writing and stuff is through Lead Bank, which is a different bank. And I don't know, that makes me weary. Like, should I be concerned about the deposit I put in, even though it's being used for, business expenses on a daily basis?
That shit always.
You should always
always
be
worries
concerned about that.
Yeah, it always worries me. All of that stuff always worries me constantly.
Well, and what you're describing is a problem with the FinCEN reporting. We're still looked at as drug dealers, so we've got to justify every nickel. So on your side as a business owner, you've got to have people who specialize in preparing the information for a FinCEN report for the bank to prepare. They've got to have someone there to prepare these FinCEN reports for the Fed, so that they're not accused of money laundering. And it just increases the cost. And we've had credit unions here in California used to charge, Jesus, hundreds of dollars, if not over $1,000 a month, just to have the damn account.
Yeah.
Okay. And
well, I
it's
pay a
getting
monthly
better.
fee too.
Yeah, but if you get screwed by a bank, a real bank, you can get your money back up to $250,000.
Right, and there's definitely no
There's no guarantee.
FDIC. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's no FDIC. It
Oh,
doesn't
and if
sound
you
like in this
sue
situation.
a bankrupt corporation, the chances of getting more than pennies out of them are just, you're not going to get any money out of these folks. They're going to go file for bankruptcy. You've got a corporation. There's no value to what their assets are. There's nothing to divvy up in bankruptcy. It's just
You're
a
the
mess
lowest.
everywhere you look.
Pretty
You're the
much.
lowest man on the totem pole when it comes to paying out. When it comes to paying out when they liquidate, you as an individual are the last person that will get paid if you get paid at all.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing too, for me, for instance, now that I'm focused more just on a brand rather than I used to have a cultivation too that I just sold, but the brand itself.
Congratulations.
Thanks. It's more of
Yeah.
getting past that to focus on the brand, and solely because doing the both is a challenge in itself. However, the thing about it is a brand can write off a lot more expenses as well. The grow can too, but the brand isn't technically touching the plant in a sense because we're working under the license.
Under the license of the cultivator or whoever your cultivating partner is,
yeah.
a distributor.
So,
yeah.
So fortunately, like just hearing that, it's like I want to put it into the cannabis bank because it comes in cash. I got to show the manifest, the invoice, everything like you said for the FinCEN. And I've actually had a deposit held up for over a month before because they didn't, they wanted extra proof and all this stuff. And it was a big mess. So anyway, my point is, I'm going to transfer it out straight right away. Basically, that's really what you're saying. I should just transfer it out and then use that for straight up branding expenses for my regular bank.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's a good answer.
Yeah, there is.
That's the problem. Most of the problems I've had, people come to me and go, "Oh, I'm getting screwed by these banks because they didn't attach to a bank till after they're up and running and had to do something with their money." When I get a chance to work with people from the gate, we take them to accountants and we set up the banks ahead of time. So you got to build it into your structure, your finances, have all these people on board to maximize your income and protect your assets. And there still isn't a good answer because you can't use the bankruptcy courts in the federal system for plant touching businesses. You may be able to, as a licensed branding company, do that, but the basic companies don't get bankruptcy. So the best you're going to get is a receivership. We do those in our firm, and they are a mess because you lose control of your business, and the assets are just typically not there. There just isn't a good answer here. I can't give one to my clients. We have to get access to banking for real and not risk these big banks closing your accounts. I've had accounts closed. I don't grow weed anymore. I'm an attorney. I've had my accounts closed because I'm too close to the plant. There's just so much that can turn your business upside down with these nonsensical banking arrangements. I don't have good answers for people.
Same. That's why
The technology's there with blockchain, but we just keep on having shitheads mess that up. And good luck, thanks to SBF and FTX, and like we actually do have technology that can help us, but it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Which is why we need to pass safe banking now. And on that, we're going to go to a commercial.
I'm once again asking for your financial support.
That part.
I'm Jason Beck, and this is Smoky Vanilla. And if you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to get yourself a stretch and smoke with Smoky Vanilla.
That's right, baby. I'm Smoky Vanilla with my background in kinesiology. I'm a sports massage therapist and stretch coach. I focus mostly on athletes who have chronic pain or injury due to their sport, or the legends of the chronic in the game, baby.
Oh, yeah, you know what it is. We just stretched, and now we're gonna smoke, because you know what it is.
That's right. I love intuitively creating a session based on the individual I'm working with. We'll go through a few assessments, look at the past health history, injury, or anything that's still affecting you today, and create a customized session just for you. Let's go.
You with us, Rico?
Keep it going.
Yeah. Oh, hold on a second.
Up
I'm
next.
sorry, Rico. Hold on.
Founder, CEO, brand director, You know who he is. The man who just sold his cultivation site for $13 trillion. And now he's focusing on branding throughout the state of California. My man, Chris. Ahern.
Thanks for
You got a
that
story,
warm
Chris?
welcome. So we got we got a little bit of a hemp story here going on, and it's kind of ironic too. But I want to get your opinion on the banking because of hemp versus cannabis, the difference. But this shows right here in this story here, you'll see how they're really trying to like dial in on the fine line of the differentiation. But anyway, here goes the story. A coalition of hemp cultivators in Alaska filed a lawsuit arguing that the state's new regulations for intoxicating hemp-derived products are unconstitutional. The Alaska Industrial Hemp Association and 4 companies filed the lawsuit in U.S. District Court in Anchorage, according to news website Alaska Beacon. Defendants named in the lawsuit are the Alaska Department of Natural Resources and its commissioner, John Boyle III, the state's Division of Agriculture and its director, Brian Scoresby, the state of Alaska, Lieutenant Governor Nancy Dahlstrom. Under the state's new rules, hemp-derived products with intoxicating levels of Delta-8 or Delta-9 THC must be approved by Alaska's Alcohol and Marijuana Control Office. Certain hemp products for epilepsy and pain would also fall under the marijuana regulator's purview. The plaintiff's attorney, Christopher Hoke, said the new regulations would effectively make all hemp-derived products illegal. According to the filing, the 4 businesses joining the hemp trade group in the lawsuit are Primo Farms North, GD Sales, McDuro Corp., Alaska Edibles. State regulators across the state are taking different approaches to hemp-derived products, which have become increasingly popular since the 2018 Farm Bill, but aren't federally regulated. The Cannabis Regulators Association, which represents state regulatory bodies, asked Congress in September to redefine and create new regulations for the hemp-derived products. So that's basically the summary of it. And it sounds like to me, and I saw this not too long ago. It seems like, I think it was in Arkansas, they're doing a similar thing where they're trying to define exactly what Delta-9 is, what other cannabinoids are, what's illegal under THC cannabis laws, and what's legal under hemp CBD laws, which ultimately we're talking about, like, you're talking about, like, if you're comparing apples, it's like saying, okay, all Granny Smith apples are completely illegal. If you get caught with one, you're going to jail. But you can have, Gala apples and, Red Delicious apples all day.
Fuji apples.
Yeah, but it's like we're splitting atoms here. They're talking about Delta-9, the combined of Delta-9 plus the THCA. I know that was the one in Arkansas. So it's really it's like without federal oversight or like a blanket law. It's kind of like what we were just saying with the banking, where it's like every state, it's kind of up to who knows what happens.
Oh yes. You're supposed to say.
Well, the
And I'm
problem
Chris from
still
Sonics
comes from.
for the High at 9 News Hour.
This is Chris from Zodix at the High at 9 News Hour.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Hey, don't get scammed by those fake accounts out there. There's a lot of them on Telegram, Instagram, all these. We do not sell online like that, so come through to California and get it in the licensed stores. Thank you.
And only come to California and get in the licensed stores. Stop thinking you're going to go and get it online. That's stupid.
Unless it's THCA.
Yes, but you guys do sell THCA online.
Yes, sir.
We have that online.
Yes,
That's it.
That's online. Yes.
Not the super loud, not the runts, not the gelato, not the cookies. Come to the stores and get the good stuff.
Shout
the
out
goods.
to Bistro, California.
Yeah.
You're already.
The problem still comes from the simplistic definition of hemp. I mean, hemp, we knew what hemp was before they knew what THC was, because if you smoked it, all you got was a headache. And you threw that shit in the trash, okay? And then once they realized what THC is, they simplistically drew the line at Delta-9 THC, when in fact there's all sort of tetrahydrocannabinoids out there, Delta-8 THCA, there's a bunch of them, and it was simplistically rolled over to, oh, it's still 0.3% THC Delta 9. Like you guys are stupid. You should have contracted or talked with an organic chemist to tell you that you need to be more inclusive if you want to control the tetrahydrocannabinoids in here. California defined all THC, Delta 9, Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10, Delta 0, whatever the fuck, THCA. They're all covered by our cannabis statutes. Everything else is within the hemp. So it's only 0.3% Delta 9, and all the other cannabinoids that you can put into the hemp products, anything that's a tetrahydrocannabinol is going to be covered by our cannabis statutes. I don't know how other states are doing it, but California took a shot at it, and I don't know that they got it right yet either.
No, go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was just going to ask. So, from what I understand, California doesn't even allow smokable hemp products to be sold in the state, right?
Well, they've got a stick up their ass right now about all things that are not THC being smoked or vaped or anything like that. California, right now, it's just hard to figure out what the hell California's doing. Because I got clients that sell cannabis, I've got clients that sell tobacco products, and nobody seems to have a clue what's going on in this state right now about these vape products and other non-THC products. So I don't know if I can answer that.
In my opinion, I think we're seeing a low-key extortion of all these companies made so much money off of marijuana products, like the Delta 8 companies and everything else. And I think that there's been so many new upstart companies that haven't really paid the toll, to cross the bridge. And I just think that this is just a little bit of consolidation, maybe for the larger corporations that have already established themselves within the states and within local governments, and they've already paid the toll bridge. Maybe this is a way for them to because they're making us think about it now, so they can get more regulations put on it. This is just me just speculating. This is just thinking that this is what I'm seeing happening. I believe that the larger companies that have already, paid that toll bridge, I think that they're waiting on the other side for the people that they've paid to kind of break up the small little companies while creating confusion and then, probably or possibly even taxing them even more, making it more difficult for these other smaller businesses to cultivate themselves, and then allowing the larger companies that have already paid that toll bridge to kind of come along and just grab all of these little companies up, and and or even just say, hey, you guys are going to work under me and I already have the license. You know what I mean? I believe that to some degree that's what we're going to see happen. And I believe the reason why they're still stagnant on legalizing marijuana, it's not just because they want to give the pharmaceutical companies control. It's also because they have to figure out how can they put the money that they're making from the prison industrial complex back in, because once they make it legal, it's gonna hurt the prison industrial complex substantially. They're gonna have to retroact a few laws, allow a lot of people to seek relief on them, possibly remove a lot of felonies and other counts and charges that was on people's jackets, as we would say. And I think that the holdup is that there's people who are well invested in the prison industrial complex that just understands how much money they get from having people incarcerated for marijuana use. So I think that those are the two main holdups that we're seeing. People could say that I'm wrong. Let me know in the chat if you think I'm wrong. Hey, I'm somebody that just bought his education like the rest of the people that go to school. But
Dale,
certified hood classic.
Dale, aren't a lot of these kind of lawsuits kind of just not making a lot of sense, because the reality is that the new farm bill legislation is going to come out pretty soon, and then that ultimately is going to change the whole framework for how everyone has to operate. And so, is there a point to really filing these in the first place?
Well, I mean, if I'm an attorney, I want you to give me money. I mean,
fair.
The reality
okay.
Of lawsuits. Okay.
So they're gaslighting their
Well, I think also
clients.
too, though, it's the state's grab at trying to get taxes or paving their safety to funnel them in while they can, because it's like, hey, we
that's
can't
been the
compete with
problem.
hemp.
That's the problem we faced all across the country, is that wherever they're going to make any use of the cannabis plant legal, everybody gets their goddamn hooks out and wants money just to get started. As the dime goes by, they want their share of it. The regulations are onerous, and it's just
No,
at
and
some point.
it bleeds. It's like even at my grow, like even down to the contractors that would come in. If you don't have the right one, they try to give you the cannabis tax, and all the way up to the city, the state, the lawyers. Like, no offense, but same.
Everything.
My lawyer would every little phone call, 15-minute increments. Were billed. So anyway, go ahead.
Mine are 6-minute increments, but
wow.
Yeah,
I'm
get it,
charged
Dale.
by the hour.
Get it.
Yeah, just so you know, we're in competition out there with these other muckrakers. But, the laws of business, okay? My time and my experience is my bread and butter, and that's how I make a living.
Right.
But, to be honest, we're too goddamn expensive. We're a litigation firm, and once you get started in litigation, you better have a sugar daddy somewhere,
Yep.
or you're going to get bled dry.
That's 100%
It's the
factual
reality.
information right there, Dale. You are so right about that. But on that, we got to keep this train rolling. We are going to move right over to the man whose voice everyone wants to silence. That's right, it's Mr. Tony Montaga. And not only that, he's coming to us live from the great red state of Texas. What you think about that, Rico? Oh yeah, it is Mr. Tony Montaga.
I'd like to say shout out to all of my hosts today on the platform. We are happy to be here bringing you guys such incredible news. And for Texas, I love being here. I just recently said on one of my lives, I should be here till the day that I'm no longer here, unalive. Not because I did it. But Florida, they're tickling my fancy because we have news. The Florida Supreme Court has appeared open to recreational.
What happened?
As a congressional amendment, the legalization initiative would bypass Florida's GOP-controlled legislation. Tallahassee, Florida. Justices on Florida's conservative-leaning Supreme Court on Wednesday appeared to favor a ballot initiative to legalize recreational marijuana. Mary Jane. Pushing back against the state's arguments that the initiative hides information from potential voters. During the hour-long arguments, the justice pointedly questioned attorneys representing Florida's Attorney General Ashley Moody, who claims the language of the initiative fails to explain that marijuana is still prohibited under federal law, which could change soon. Justice Charles G. Kennedy said the proposal was clear. Where's the hidden ball? Kennedy said, later adding, I'm baffled by the argument. Maybe it's just me. The argument centered on a pot legalization initiative sponsored by the Smart and Safe Florida. We just did a show maybe 3 Thursdays ago where we were talking about the people that were losing out money to try to fight for legalization, and it appears that it might be working. Which is backed by True Levy, the state's largest medical marijuana producer. The initiative seeks to legalize marijuana use for anyone 21 years of age or older, while leaving an additional issues of licensing up to the GOP-led legislation. Smart and Safe has already collected more than 1 million valid signatures, easily surpassing the more than 891,000 required to qualify for the ballot by February, and ultimately be on the 2024 ballot. At least 60% of voters would need to approve it for it to be enacted. Well, it's clear they have over 1 million signatures. I think they're going to have over 60%. If the Supreme Court rules in favor of the marijuana initiative, Florida's 13 million voters would have a chance in 2024 to decide whether to legalize pot in the country's third most populous state. Florida would join 24 states that would have already legalized marijuana for recreational use, including Ohio, where voters approved a similar ballot initiative Tuesday night. As a congressional amendment, the legalization initiative will bypass Florida's GOP-controlled legislation, which has ignored similar bills filed by lawmakers over the past few years. In 2019, Governor Ron DeSantis called on the legislation to remove a ban on raw flowers from the state's medical marijuana law, which voters approved by the ballot initiative in 2016. But DeSantis, who is now running for president, has said on campaign trail that the recreational pot is a problem and has said drugs are killing this country. The sanctimonious. 5 of the state's 7 Supreme Court justices were appointed by DeSantis, including Chief Justice Carlos G. Muniz, who also said that the ballot's language did not misled voters. Chief Deputy Solicitor General Jeffrey Paul D'Souza argued during Wednesday's hearing that the amendment also deceived voters by saying it will create new licenses to sell and produce pot for recreational use, on top of allowing what the state calls medical marijuana treatment centers to start selling products to anyone age 21 and over. Menendez disagreed, saying that the proposed amendment explains to voters that the creation of additional licenses would be left up to legislators. It seemed like it wasn't an unreasonable choice to put the substantive part. Menendez said, "I can't see how that wouldn't be reasonable." The Florida Chamber of Commerce has also asked the Supreme Court to reject the legislation initiative, arguing that the measures violates a requirement that ballot initiatives must stick to one subject. The Supreme Court has until April 1st to hand down a decision on the case. If no decision has been handed down, the measure will be cleared to be on the next year's ballot. Smart and Safe spokesman Steve Vancour said the current effort addresses concerns raised by the court when it rejected 2 previous legislations, ballot initiatives. We believe that after today's oral arguments, it is clear that the language was drafted to conform to the roadmap that the court itself has provided in prior cases, Vancourt wrote in a statement. We hope that the court agrees with the language, strictly adheres to the law, and will allow the citizens of Florida to exercise their sovereign right to decide whether to amend their constitution. You guys watching, please tell me what you think. Again, remember, we did do a show on this maybe 3 Thursdays, maybe 4 Thursdays back, where we were talking about the problem and how the money is drying up and how there wasn't being enough money produced and pumped into this initiative. And currently right now, it seems as if they are successful enough that if there isn't a decision by April 1st, and it's going to go to the ballot for 2024, please in the audience, let me know what you think. And for my co-host, what do you think?
They're going to shoot it down.
Yeah, my brother Rico don't be holding back. So it sounds good. It just sounds good.
You guys are,
oh God.
You guys are silly. So it looks as though I've been reading some other articles. It says that these justices appeared they believe that they are going to vote in their favor, and that the Attorney General Ashley Moody did not deliver a very much of a compelling argument in order to win over the judge's opinions on this case.
I might have to get a winter home in Florida. I'm just saying.
Hey, I'm not mad at that.
Is that gonna go when it turns winter in Texas? You're gonna go over to.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all.
Weather.
I am not mad at that at all.
You because of global warming, you guys have snow in Dallas now. So I don't know.
Well, I don't live in Dallas, so it's a good thing,
doesn't
man.
sound like global
hey, they
warming
really
to
get
me.
snow in Dallas? That's crazy. Last time they had snow out there, a lot of people died because they don't know how to drive in the snow. And you should see how they drive out here when it rains. When it's heavy rain, you know what? I love Texas, but this is, and I've lived in California for a number of years. So for people to say, oh, there's drug use in California, and the third, no, there's some of the safest drivers in California. But in Texas, you're more liable to die in a car accident out here than you are anywhere else in the country. And these are the people who are stark raving lunatics against marijuana indigestion. Yeah, you can go to any gas station and pick up a 6-pack like it's nothing. Like water, literally.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go to Florida.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Florida,
Well,
man.
I'd like to say I'm hopeful that we're going to get a court system to side with us, because the law is supposed to be neutral. We've all seen way too many political decisions come out of courts, and
yes.
so,
Speaking of court, Dale, I have one quick headline I'm going to read for you real quick before we wrap this up. Because A top marijuana grower agrees to pay Rhode Island $625,000 penalty to maintain his license. It says one of the top marijuana growing businesses has agreed to drop a lawsuit and pay the state $625,000 in exchange for keeping its license that regulators were moving to revoke. STJ LLC, a Warwick company better known as Fire Ganja, entered into a consent agreement with Rhode Island. And you can read the rest of the article all on our website at www.highat9news.com. But what do you think about this, Rico? $625,000 to keep your license and drop a lawsuit. That's it.
Media platforms tuning in each day to the headlines of chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry. To our vetted correspondents tuning in from all over, bringing us much needed variety of perspective and your respected opinions to the table. Our production team, Cloud Media Partners, and all of our sponsors keeping the lights on, and usually our AV struggles to a minimum. As always, Cannabis Sativa L, the reason the High 9 News team reads these stories every single day. Thank you, baby girl. It has been Thursday, November 9th, 2023. You've been blessed with all the industry's top headlines. Hope was enough for you to put in your pipe and smoke at least until tomorrow. Zotics, Mr. Zotics himself. What you got for us, man? Take us out. Give us a good word for the people.
Man, just, it's creation over competition. That's my biggest thing is, we're all here to create this industry and make it better. So let's do that together and not, internally compete. And all the stuff we talked about today needs to happen, and it takes a united front. So, yeah, thanks for watching. And again, check out our authentic online presence through Zotix420.com. That's Zotix420.com, the website. Go to our link tree for our authentic Instagrams. Thanks again for having me.
Sir.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Chris from Zotix. Check it out. And if you're like one of those states that don't have anything, he's got THCA.
We do teal hoodies.
The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shape